So the first reading from Jude. We need this understanding when we face temptation, that God can keep us from falling. He never plans to drag us down, to ruin our testimony, to make us ineffective. Jeremiah 20 verse 10, Jeremiah says, my friends watched for my fall. There are people who are watching to see us fall, so they could say, this thing don't make any sense. We need to understand that God is able to keep us. We're not to be cocksure, that is, believing in ourselves, in our own ability, that we can do this. That is trouble. That's danger. We saw it last time with Israel at AI. They said, oh, that's small. We can handle it. And they were defeated. The Bible says to us clearly, when you think you're standing, take heed, lest you fall. We're not to be cocksure, but we can be confident because we are trusting in God. So David considered the giant, you come at me with sword and spear. When I come, in the name of the Lord of hosts, God of Israel, whose arm you have defied. So it's confidence in God that matters. How does God keep us from falling? Well, first of all, He gives us the resources we need to stand. 2 Peter 1 verse 3 tells us clearly there, He has given us all things that pertain to life and godliness. All that we need to be godly has been given to us by God. And as we face the enemy, He has given us the armor we need. Ephesians 6 from verse 10 tells us we can be strong in the Lord. We must take the whole armor of God so we can be standing at the end of the day. We got the shield, the helmet, the sword, all we need to defeat the enemy. Think of the Lord Himself as a man. As He faced temptation, His answer came straight from the Word of God. It is written. It is written. That's the same word that we can use when we face a situation, pull something out that can address that situation we're facing. And once we have the right equipment, we are going to succeed. Remember once in Trinidad, we had a flat tire and just could not get the nuts off with the tools we had. And the brother came with the right tool, and in no time, the nuts were off. We have all the equipment we need to defeat the enemy, but we've got to use it. God has given it to us. So we have the equipment we need. Secondly, He provides for us the way of escape. 1 Corinthians 10:13. We are told that clearly that we all face temptation. But God is giving more than you can bear. And He also gives you the way to escape. Joseph, Genesis 39, from verse 7 onwards, in Potiphar's house. And every day he's pestered by the woman. Day in, day out. And he says, no, she doesn't accept no for an answer. He presses him. To the point where she attempts physically to take him. And Joseph had to leave his clothes behind. That was the way of escape. There are things that we can do to escape. He will show us an open door. We must go through it. To avoid sin at times, we have to avoid going to certain places. We have to alter our pattern. Make sure we don't watch certain shows or click on certain websites. He will show us the way of escape. Listen, if you want to be sure you never fall from a tree, you know what you can do? You know the answer. If you don't go up on the tree, you can't fall off a tree. So there's certain things that we need to do practically. God will show us, don't go there, don't do this. That's to protect us. And he does show us the way of escape. So he keeps us in this way. And thirdly, when we are weak, he holds us. Psalm 27, 23, and 24. The good man's steps are ordered by the Lord. And though he may stumble, he's not totally cast down. Why? God upholds him with his hand. The image of a parent walking with their child and holding that child's hand. And even though you're walking at the edge of a cliff, you are being held by a strong hand. That's what we need to understand, that the Lord will hold us. One of the most powerful songs we have is this: I can't even walk without the hold of my hand. That's a song of Paul. For it is saying to us, we depend on him, not on ourselves, to keep us. Our God is able to keep us from falling, to make us stand, to be on our feet. By his grace, we can maintain a good testimony. We can be still here despite the enemy's attacks and what he does. We can say, I'm still here because God is keeping me. He's able. And you can be a Christian in Queens Drive or anywhere else because God is the one who's able to keep you from falling. And the years will pass and you will still be serving God because he's able. The second passage, 2 Chronicles 25. This we need when doing the right thing appears to involve a loss. So Amaziah had spent the money to hire the soldiers. And God says, you know what? If you carry these men, you are going to lose the battle. The man of God says, listen, you let that money go. Don't worry about the money. You try to save your life, you're going to lose it. Let the money go. God is not going to work through those soldiers you have hired. And this is a challenge for us as believers. We try to save our lives, save our money, save whatever we want to save, and lose what's more important. I had a heartbreaking story some years ago of a young lady who was going to get married. And before the wedding, the mother saw something in the young man that she thought was a danger signal and said to her daughter, you know, I think you shouldn't go through this wedding. The lady said, Mommy, we spent all this money already for this wedding. He could change. Well, he never did change. People don't just change like that. So she saved the money and lost what was more important. Now, naturally, we want to hold on to certain things, to money, position, whatever it is. But we need to see the bigger picture and let go of things to honor God, because we believe what he has for is better than what you will let go of. I remember when I was a student, and that's a long time ago, one year I was coming to St. Vincent to camp. I promised to come to camp that year. And same time, got an offer to go to Canary Days, that's years ago. I was studying to be a journalist in those days. But I'd already committed myself to come to camp. So I'm saying, no, I camp is what I committed to. And my brother is saying, but this is your career. I remember the verse, the same verse, 2 Corinthians 25, verse 9, that came to me. Okay, I'm losing this, but God will give much more than what I've lost. And I said, okay, I let go the attachment, came to camp. That was that. The next year, something came back. I didn't expect it. Another attachment. This time to be in Barbados at zero, to do disaster preparedness and all that. And I went on that. The money they gave me was handsome. You know, they were to use some of that actually to fund something else when I went to study. I'm not saying I let everything go. And God did that. You see, it's when we lack faith, we try to hold on to what we have and dishonor God. Not like I want it. Why does Israel bring to God diseased animals? Why? Well, they're sick already. I can't get God my good animal. I can sell it and make money. God is saying, you will not give that to the governor. Why bring it to me? God said, listen, if you bring what you have into my storehouse, then you will see what I can do. I'll pour a blessing on you that you'll not be able to hold. But that is all about faith. When I'm willing to lose to honor God, that's when the blessing will come. I think of Abraham, Genesis 13. In that conflict with Lot, the herdsman fighting over the land. Abraham was a big man, and he could have said, Lot, you go not down over there. He said, you take first. He let it go. And Lot chose the best he thought and ended up in Sodom. And Abraham just followed what God said. And we know the story how it ended up. God can give much money. Anything the devil can give you. And you know what? When God blesses you, there's no sorrow with that. There are people who have money can enjoy it. You get some things to turn sour in your mouth. When you are blessed by God, you are blessed. But only if you are willing to let everything go, you're going to see this happen. And listen, everything belongs to God. Not the people who say they have them in us. God, they are God's. You got to leave it right here. So God can supply all of your needs. But you got to trust him. Seek the kingdom first. And anything that you will have to let go of, that you will lose, so that you can honor God, he can give you much more than that. Don't depend on a man to mind you. No. Depend on God to take care of you. Not the politician to take care of you. Depend upon God. Because God is always in power. And he will meet our needs. So when you have to decide on a situation where doing the right thing means a loss, remember, God is able to give you much more than anything you will let go for him. Thirdly, Romans 4:21, able to perform what he has promised. It's when you have to wait for something. One of the hardest things to do is to wait for anything. You got to wait. It's even harder when you aren't sure that the person you're waiting on will come true. That he can and will do what he said he would. Election time, there are many promises. They promise you what they think they can do for you, or what they know they can do for you, but they think that will work. That's how man is with his promises. But when God makes you a promise, you know he can do that. He says to Abraham, Abraham, you are going to have a son. And Abraham laughed. God said, call him Isaac. Isaac means laugh. And of course, then the time came when God did give Abraham the son. He laughed at first, but he held on in faith. He said, yes, my God can do this. And the time came against lips to speak. Isaac was born. God can perform whatever he promises to us. Acts 23 verse 11. God says to Paul, you are going to Rome. And from there on, trouble started. Everything seemed against Paul. There was a plot to kill him. They had to send him with soldiers by night for protection. Then he's kept in prison for 2 years for no apparent reason. He appeals to Caesar. So he goes on the ship. The ship goes down. They escape. He lands on the shore. A snake bites him. You know, all these things happen. But in the end, Paul went to Rome. He got to Rome. In Acts 27, 21, 25 is the part that really, is striking to me. That Paul is on the ship that's going down. And he's telling people, don't worry. Because God has told me I'm going to Rome and I must get to Rome. He believed in God's promises. You see, God can do whatever he promised. It is for us to wait on God's time. Don't be in a hurry. So while you are waiting, God is working. He's going to do it in his own time. If you don't believe that, you'll go and make your own plan and try to walk it your way. God can perform whatever he has promised. I want us to believe that today and wait on God. And I guarantee you one thing. When you wait on God, you never wait in vain. You always deliver of the God we serve. He can do it, and he will do it. The fourth reading from Ephesians 3 verse 20. This one now is when we are truly convinced that we need a miracle. Some situations arise and we say, yes, this requires a miracle. It can't work any other way. Some of us, some things are unthinkable. In 2 Kings 7, for example, verse 1, verse 2, the man of God says to the king, tomorrow at this time, we're going to have our sold at normal prices. Of course, that seemed crazy because they had a famine. They were on a siege and there was no food around. In fact, one guy said, if not open heaven's windows, it might happen. Man of God says, well, you see it, you will eat it. And things happened exactly as the man of God said. But the way it worked out, if you wrote a short story, people would say that can't work. Fiction has to be something people believe. So here we have all leprous men at the gate. And they're saying, boy, I don't think back and they will die. If you go out there and they go out there and find the camp empty. Because the Syrians heard a noise. And they said, Lord, they run left everything. So these men would go into the camp, just take up stuff, then they said, no, we can't just keep doing this. That's what they're looking. So all these of the Syrians left behind was brought into the city and they had food at normal prices. Just like that. That is what God can do that is unbelievable to human beings. But that's God. So when we think something is too big, it is too much to ask, let's remember the God we serve. In Acts chapter 12, verse 5 to 17, Peter is arrested, and the church prays for Peter. And when God moved, Peter himself thought he was dreaming. He said, no, this is a dream of heaven. Sometimes God works in our lives. We have to stop and pinch ourselves to make sure that's what it really is. When Rhoda went to the door to answer and said, it's Peter, the people inside said, no, it's not Peter. So you pray, God moves so fast you don't believe. But God works in spite of us. That's the beauty of God. That's the beauty of God. He can do what exceeds our wildest dreams. The key is to delight ourselves in Him, and we get our heart's desires. He'll do things for us that will blow our minds. Yeah. I remember, again, back in my student days, coming home from camp, about to go back to Jamaica, and I was told to pass by some brother who had something for me. This is back about 1981, 82, not later than that. And the brother begins to write a check, puts one digit, puts a zero, another zero, and I'm thinking it's a mistake he's making. I'm going back 30-something years. It was no mistake. It was God doing way beyond what we can ask or think. So whatever your situation today, whatever it is that and you think it's so hard, God can do much more than that, way beyond your wildest dreams. You might say, oh, my life, I don't think it's getting my life. Well, listen. God can take a valley of dry bones. Nothing hard for Him. So, as we face life daily, the question comes to us, what can your God do? And the answer is everything necessary to enable us to emerge victorious. Everything that we need. He can keep us from falling. We can walk through this world with hinds feet. We can be sure-footed because God is keeping us. We have the equipment we need. He shows the open door for us to escape. His hand holds us. He can give much more than anything that you want to hold on to. Anything that somebody is giving you to keep it funded, God can give more than that. And you know what? There is no sorrow attached to what God gives you. When you are blessed by God, you enjoy that. There's no aftertaste to the street. Nothing sour about that. Our God will keep every promise He has made. When He says, I'll do it, He can do it, and He will do it. That's the God. We can wait on God. He will always come through. And yes, when we face these situations, we say, yeah, way boy, no, we can't get this done. Remember, God can do more than that. Think of the concept of infinity in mathematics. I'm not good at maths, but anyway. So think of the highest number you can think of. And add one more to that. It's no limit to it. You can always add one more, one. Whatever it is that you think of, God can do way beyond that. Israel made a critical mistake when they left Egypt. Psalm 78, verse 41. They limited the God of Israel. And that's often a mistake. We limit God. Put him in a box and say he can't do this, he can't do that, he can't do that. At the same time, we put our trust in all kinds of people. So Israel went after Baal, but he could give them the things that they want. That's how they saw it. And until we understand the God we serve, we'll never make progress. We got to get to know this God. Know him personally. And once you know God, you're going to be strong and do exploits. Today I want us to understand our God is able. The devil is powerful, but our God has much more power than that. And as we trust him, we see him work in our lives. And if the God I described today is your God, nothing will stop you. And I trust all of us today can say from our hearts, this is my God. I'm trusting him. And God can take you and make you into a mighty force for him in this land. Because I tell you something, when you truly know God and you fear God, you depend on no man and you fear no man. And if that's your situation, you are invincible. And I trust God today. All of us will be invincible as we know God, we trust him. Depend on no man, fear no man. That's victory.